Imagine waking up one morning and finding that a skill you spent years building has quietly started to slip. Not all at once, just a word here, a phrase there, a moment of hesitation where there used to be none. That is what language attrition feels like. And if you speak more than one language, you have probably already felt it. There is a particular frustration that comes with this that does not get talked about enough. You did the hard part. You learned the language. You reached a level where you could think in it, dream in it, feel something in it. And now it seems like simply not using it for a few weeks or months is enough to undo what took years to build. That does not seem fair. And honestly, it is not the whole picture. Here is what is actually happening inside the brain when you stop using a language. Your brain does not delete things the way you might delete a file. What it does is something more like letting a path grow over. If you have ever seen a trail in the woods that nobody walks anymore, you know what this looks like. The path does not disappear overnight. It gets narrower. Weeds come in. After a long enough time, it can become genuinely hard to find. Neural pathways work on a similar principle. Language lives in networks, not in one place, but distributed across regions responsible for sound, meaning, memory, and motor patterns for speaking and writing. When you use a language regularly, those networks stay active and well-connected. When you stop, the connections become less efficient. The information is often still there. It is just harder to reach. This is why relearning a language you once knew always goes faster than learning it the first time. The path is overgrown, not gone. So what does it take to keep the path clear? This is where most advice falls apart, because people assume maintenance requires the same effort as learning. It does not. The neurological threshold for maintenance is significantly lower than the threshold for acquisition. You are not trying to build the network anymore. You are just keeping it active. But there is a catch. Passive exposure, reading or listening without much cognitive engagement, does less than most people expect. The brain is efficient in a way that sometimes works against us. If it can process something without effort, it tends to do exactly that. Process it and move on, without strengthening the underlying network very much. What actually keeps a language alive is meaningful use. Not necessarily frequent use, meaningful use. Think about the difference between half listening to a podcast in your second language while doing something else and having a real conversation with someone where you have to think, react, express something you actually care about. Both feel like language practice, but neurologically, they are quite different experiences. The second one involves something called retrieval effort, the cognitive work of pulling language from memory under real conditions. That effort, that slight struggle, is precisely what signals the brain to maintain and reinforce those connections. Which raises a question worth sitting with. How much of your current maintenance routine is genuinely effortful, and how much is comfortable? Now, here is the reframe that changes how most people approach this. Maintaining multiple languages is not primarily a time management problem. It is a prioritization problem, but not the kind that involves scheduling. It is about understanding that different languages in your repertoire can serve different purposes in your life, and that the level of maintenance they need depends on what role you want them to play. A language you want to use fluently in professional settings requires something different than one you want to be able to have a conversation in when you visit a place every few years. Both are worth keeping, but they do not require the same investment. When you try to maintain every language at the same level simultaneously, you are working against how the brain naturally allocates resources. The brain is not a filing cabinet where everything stays exactly where you put it. It is more like a living system that responds to use, context, and relevance. The most linguistically capable people are not usually the ones who do the most practice. They are the ones who have found ways to make their languages genuinely present in their lives, connected to real experiences, real relationships, real meaning. A language does not need to be your daily language to survive. It needs to be a real language in your life. That might mean one meaningful conversation a month, a book you read slowly over a year, a film that reminds you why you fell in love with the language in the first place. These are not heroic acts of discipline. They are small, deliberate acts of presence. The forgetting that feels like failure is often just the brain doing what brains do, conserving energy, deprioritizing what seems less needed. You can work with that once you understand it. If you have ever felt that quiet anxiety of a language slipping away, or wondered whether the investment was worth it, it probably was. The path is almost certainly still there. If this way of thinking about language and memory resonates with you, there are more videos here that go further into the neuroscience behind how we learn and retain. And if you have your own experience with this, a language you have maintained, lost, or are trying to hold on to. The comment section is a genuinely interesting place to share it. Other people's strategies tend to be more useful than most formal advice.